Kids love games. We all know that. And every parent who's still looking for that lost piece of Candyland knows it. We know that there are really great redeeming qualities for games and educational qualities that we can bring into our homeschools and our regular traditional schooling families. So today I'm so excited to bring in Ashley Wright, who is running gypsygameschooler.com. She is going to show us a little bit how game schooling can benefit our kids. So Ashley, welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing to help families?
Yeah, sure. I am a homeschool mom to 2 kids. They're 8 and 9. And I actually have a background in education. I taught violin lessons for a lot of years. I quit after my kids got to the age where they're more mobile and in and out, and it was really hard to keep my house clean. I was like, this is really stressful all of a sudden. And it happened to be right when COVID hit. So it was really good timing for me to decide to quit teaching and then to be like, well, I couldn't teach anyway. So I quit teaching then. And then we've just been homeschooling. We're actually traveling full time now, which is really cool. And we do a lot with games.
That is so cool. All right. Well, everybody's probably pulled out Uno or pulled out Ticket to Ride or whatever on the random weekend moment when kids are up for a game. But I think game schooling is a little bit different. Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown? What is game schooling?
Yeah, at its most basic, it's just learning through games. Mm-hmm. So instead of using a curriculum, at least for my family, we use games. However, there are plenty of families that use a curriculum and supplement with games, either when they hit a tough spot and their kid needs a different way to approach it, or if, they just have Friday game day or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's so much that you can do with games that most people are like, oh, well, okay, you can count. Well, there's a lot more than just counting. There's the addition and subtraction and the normal scorekeeping, but you've got all sorts of games that work with science or geography or history. You've got the soft skills that are my favorite. Mm-hmm. So cooperation, being a good sport, that, the resilience that you get.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I teach some classes that focus on a lot of those soft skills with communication, collaboration, strategic thinking, complex problem solving. Obviously, simpler games, we're going to pare down that strategic thinking, but mm-hmm. kids are capable. I love mm-hmm. that they are so capable of, hey, I think every time, and again, this is done through different developmental stages, right? But when they start to kind of see that repetition and they're able to identify patterns and why their older sibling keeps putting down +2 when it becomes their turn, they're like, hey, I think you don't want me to win. Maybe I'll try that next time too when we play Uno, that sort of thing. They're so capable. And so I love just seeing that happen kind of a little bit more naturally, right? It's not as much direct instruction as we might see in a school setting. Yeah. Well, very cool. I love it. So what are some examples that you've seen game schooling teach really effectively compared to normal direct instruction in school?
Yeah, so one example is when my son was about 5, I desperately wanted a copy of Mastermind. And I grew up with this game. I had great memories with playing it with my dad. Well, we couldn't find it used anywhere. So my husband went to the store, bless him, and brought me home a new copy. I was like, that's expensive, because by this time I'd figured out thrift storing, and
yeah, but I was happy for it. That is important to point out. So you're saying thrift games?
Oh,
that's
yes,
a great idea. Yeah, awesome.
But so he got me the new copy, and we played it with my son, and it was so cool to watch his logic develop. First my husband played like a regular code, which was way too hard for him. I was like, no, let's keep it simple. Let's do 2 colors. And then he was able to do that. And then, we walked through how we think things through and stuff like that. And it was just really cool to be able to see that happening. Another cool example is Ani Pasta's pizza fraction game, which is an out of print game, but it's still pretty readily available used. And has whole, half, 1/3, and 1/4. And they're trying to build a pizza. And it's, pretty simple, basic. There's just addition and subtraction. But to this day, if we are cooking with something and we're like, oh, you need 2/3 of a cup. Well, how many, here, I think in that it was bell peppers. How many bell pepper pieces do you need? Oh, we need 2.
But that's huge. And that's what 8-year-old is cutting bell peppers, right? We love cooking, but like my 8-year-olds are not regularly chopping bell peppers. And so there's this kind of connection in that game to, hey, there's this thing. And again, with learning, a lot of what we want to draw out from our kids is their background knowledge, right? And the just pure lack of life experience, life lived. And a lot of times there's just not that background knowledge there. But with games, in this pizza game where the bell peppers happen to represent 1/3, then they're going to have that connection to draw on, which I love. That's huge.
Yeah, so that was just like a bell pepper slice of pizza. So it was 1/3 of a pizza. Okay. But so we'll do that with whatever. And my kids started playing when they were like 3 and 4. So by the time they were like 4 and 5, they were really comfortable with those basic fractions.
That's huge.
It was really cool. It was like, well, I know adults that can't figure that out.
Yeah. Well, and that's not a typical 3 and 4-year-old topic. So very cool. And that's, again, just speaks to the fact that kids are capable. I think a lot of times we might put limits on them or look at the box and say, hey, this game is for 5 and up. Sorry, you can't play 3-year-old. No, do it. Let them put their 2 cents in and see what happens. That's really cool. I love it. Okay. That's awesome. I love that. I also just want to add in there, like I've loved seeing how the compassion and being patient can also be taught in games. Again, with 4 kids, and you've got 2 kids who are pretty close in age, I guess, but perhaps you've seen this maybe with the older being compassionate with the younger, oh, come on, they take so long when it's their turn. Let's help them, whisper something to them, see if they might need a hint or give them some tips. There's this human part of games too that we can really bring in. So I love that too.
Yeah, actually, it's funny with them being so close in age. Sometimes it's the older that gets impatient with the younger, but sometimes my younger is my daughter, and she'll be like, Logan, why are you taking so long?
Yeah.
Because he's a 9-year-old boy, little scatterbrained.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Cool. Well, let's think about favorite games. Our game cabinet is literally right up behind me. And I'm kicking myself for not having pulled some of them out, but I want to hear your favorites. I'll share some of mine too, but let's hear some of your favorite games.
So I started pulling out games. So I was like, oh yeah, she wants favorite games. So I'll pull out a few. And I think I've got like 18 games that I pulled out as favorites because I'm really not good at this, but
that's totally fine.
So this is one of my favorites that I've got over here.
Oh my gosh, this looks awesome.
It's huge and expensive, but it's so pretty. And it's got like all the national parks in there. Not all of them are in the game. They've got a few that they didn't put in, I think because they were just really close to other national parks. But you're going around collecting stones from the different national parks, and you're just seeing the whole nation out there. And the pictures are so pretty. So you're like, oh, I want to go to that national park next.
That's amazing. So this is geography, this is geology, this is biology, botany, zoology a little bit. I mean, just stretch it.
Mostly geography.
Okay.
But yeah, you could do some science with it because it does have it's got pictures with some of the animals that you might see. Okay. But we just mostly use it for geography.
All right, cool.
Well, this one, the bananagrams.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, yeah. So we use these all the time. We actually have never played as the rules have said, but they're just little tiles that have the letters on them, like Scrabble, but without the board. And our Scrabble game, the board is tucked away and the tiles are hung up somewhere else. So this one, the kids just get out, and the tiles are plastic, so they feel really nice on the fingers. So if you have sensory kiddos, that's a nice thing to consider. And they'll just get it out and be like, oh, I need to spell this word. And they'll figure out how to spell the word using the tiles before they go to the effort of actually writing it down.
Very good. Yeah. And another spelling option. We love giving kids, we throw invisible snowballs at each other with letters. We jump up and down. We touch certain body parts with letters. But this is a great way, giving kids the chance to kind of pull those letters out. Cool. All right. What else?
Another variation, if you don't want bananagrams, if you want one with a board, I would do upwards. That one, because you're stacking them, so you can turn like cat into hat, and they can see how the word changes with just the change of a letter. So that one's really fun too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another one we haven't actually played as the rules. We just kind of played around with it.
That's great.
Mancala is a favorite of mine. We just have, it was a thrift store special, but it's easy to DIY. So you can
That's true.
use just a egg carton to DIY it, and you're just moving stones around. It's a really, really old game, so we have these little stones in it, and it's logic and strategic thinking, and it's just a two-person game, so that's nice when you just want to work one-on-one with one kid, or when your kids want to play just two of them. So my kids have actually just recently started playing games with just the two of them, which is a bit nerve-wracking because kids lose pieces.
Yes.
But it's also really, really cool to see that, oh, wow, they're actually playing chess.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I love that. It's fun to, and that's for a lot of homeschool families too. We might have some downtime during the day, or we're taking off from a subject and we don't want them on screens, and that's just having these alternatives when people ask, because we don't have TV service and we watch a movie on the weekends. And so it's one of those things where what do your kids do? Well, games, Legos, building, all these things that you can have at the ready. It just takes a little bit of proper prior planning. So I love that. Very cool. All right. Maybe a couple more.
Yeah. So another good thing are cooperative games. So we've got actually a bunch of different cooperative games. So this one is for 2 to 4 players. This one is actually, it says it's 2 to 4, but it's really strictly 2-player. And usually, I think Gnomes at Night is our only cooperative game that's specifically for 2 players. So that one's a favorite of mine because they're sitting on opposite sides of the board. And so each side can only see their side of the maze. And so you're getting to different objects. You're picking up different items, but you can't get to it on just using your side. So you have to communicate with the other person and be like, okay. And they're connected by a magnet. So if you're both trying to move it, you drop them.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so that one's a really cool one, especially if you're like struggling to communicate with whether it's your spouse or one of your kids, and you're like, I need a way to get through to them. This can really help reset things.
Yeah, that's huge. Oh my gosh, I love those. Those are really fun. We have Hoot Owl Hoot, which is a cooperative game where kids are trying to get all the owl chicks back in the nest before the sun rises, that sort of thing. That's an easy one for them to kind of set up by themselves and play.
I've heard it's a hard one to win, though.
It is hard to win. It's true. So for our very competitive children who are like, but we didn't win. I'm like, let's play again. Calm down.
So this game, we totally have only won when we have cheated. When we've said, okay, we're not going to follow this rule.
There you go.
And that's how we can win that game. We've never actually won it.
There you go. Well, bend those rules. That's great. Oh my gosh. Another one that I've loved, and I'm one of our homeschool buddies here, the mom is really into RPGs, role player games. And I do not pretend to understand half of what is happening on her end because she's like creating the storyline and stuff like that. But for the kids who are involved, a small group of homeschoolers that we meet up every other week, create your pony. Your pony gets a certain amount of points based on dice. So it's kind of a fun cooperative event, but kids really do have to prepare and think ahead for. So that's really fun. Another one is Ticket to Ride, which is a train game. Have you played that one?
We have one copy at my mother-in-law's that we didn't bring with us, but then we also have New York that we brought with us because it's a smaller board, a smaller box. So yeah, that one's good too.
Oh man. Okay. Well, cool. That's great for geography, especially not living in the United States, but being U.S. citizens. We want our kids to understand, where Florida, where Texas, where, what corner is what thing in, and being able to kind of have some relationship there as well as a little bit of strategy. There was one more I was thinking of. Chess though. Chess is fantastic. Puzzles. Would we classify puzzles as game schooling games?
I would.
Yeah. Do you guys, I guess traveling full time, it may not be your go-to perhaps, but
we have puzzles. We haven't done a whole lot.
Okay.
We're actually so busy out exploring everything that we are visiting that we aren't playing as many games as we did when we were in the house. We still have a bunch, but we're too busy for it sometimes.
There's a time and a place. Yeah. All right. Very good. Any more before we move on? I don't want to cut off your list.
If you want to get into the role play games, but you're a little nervous about it, this game, let's see if I can get it up there.
Adventure Begins. Nice.
Is like board game meets D&D. So
Dungeons
It's
and Dragons for those. I am not I'm not up on it, but I do know that. All right, cool. Okay, board game meets D&D. Wow. Okay. And would this be kid friendly? Is it
oh
kids are
yes,
okay,
it's
cool.
my son's favorite game.
So fun. Okay, well, I'm definitely on the lookout. So I will
It says it's
probably be
10
knocking on your
plus,
door.
but I think my kids started playing it when they were about 7. So
Okay. All right, cool. Very cool. Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. How about this? Any resources that you found to be particularly helpful? Having dice around. It sounds like using materials from games that are not necessarily being used as directed. Would you say? Anything else people could have like in their back pocket?
I would say be flexible. So I did buy a pack of extra pawns, like little player mover guys, and you don't really need them. You can use those little spare bits of Legos that you can use them, or like a rock that your kid found or whatever. So you can do that. Um, the using a egg carton to make mancala. You can do a lot of things, I think, without getting so much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you can play a ton of games with a deck of cards and a handful of dice.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Okay. I love that. And so while we have mentioned that games can be super expensive off the shelf, buying them used, thrifting them, I imagine Facebook Marketplace might be another option there. Just making sure you're getting all the pieces in the game box would be something important to do before you buy it. And then having some of these extra pieces around is really helpful, or just scrounging. We do a lot of that too. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Well, this is such an amazing topic. Ashley, I love what you're doing. I love the exploration part of your homeschool adventure. So very, very cool. If people want to learn more about what you do with gameschooling, could you share a little bit about where they can find you and where they can keep learning from you?
Yeah, absolutely. My blog, gypsygameschooler.com, has reviews of different board games. I do roundup posts, so if you're looking and you want to just look at all the different spelling games, then I list them all in one spot, so that makes it a little bit easier. I also have a YouTube channel where we play through games. We're about a year behind from the blog posts. My husband is my audio editor, and I have to get the whole family together to record it. So it's a little harder than just writing the blog post. But we also play through the game so you can see if it's going to work for your family. You can actually watch the playthrough a little bit. And
And you've got a free game that people could pick up too,
yes.
right? There's
actually a couple on that website, but yes.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. So we'll link to those below. Make sure you check those out and keep learning from Ashley. I know I'm very excited to keep learning from you. So Ashley, as we kind of wrap up, something I always ask people is, what are they excited about? What are you excited about in this space as you work with families, and share a little bit about game schooling?
I'm excited when parents come to the various homeschool groups, Facebook groups, and they're stressed out and worried and confused. And I'm like, oh, you can play games and it'll help, this game will help with this challenge. And the relief that you can tell, even through the screen, of, oh my goodness, my kid loves games. This is going to go so well. And I love knowing that somebody else has found something easier than another worksheet or whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, this is an amazing time to homeschool, and especially your family is in such a unique situation, being able to travel at the same time. So no matter how much or little, how much space that you've got close by, this can be done very simply as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I appreciate having you here. And for those of you watching, if nobody's told you yet today, thank you for doing what you're doing. It is very important, and happy teaching.